Welcome into Campus Insiders. Bonnie Bernstein with you. And once again, Florida State star quarterback Jameis Winston being linked to some off-the-field goings-on that don't necessarily portray him in the most positive light. A gambling site called IBN Sports Wrap alleges Winston was involved in a point-shaving plot to win a high school teammate of his $5,000. The site claims Chris Rabb bet $5,500 to take the Cardinals +1 in the first half of the game against Louisville. Winston, of course, played one of the worst halves of his career through 2 picks, 52.1 completion percentage was the worst of his career. So wanted to bring in our insider Dave Miller and also a former Heisman winner and Eric Crouch to sort of discuss this matter. Dave, as you sort of bandy about all of this information, what's your initial take?
Put it this way, there's a better chance, in my opinion, of Jameis Winston giving his friend $5,000 out of his own wallet than there is of him trying to help him win a bet. I think it's ludicrous. I think you have to look at the source, a guy named Incarcerated Bob, who has come up with ludicrous stories in the past. Jameis Winston loves to win too much. The thing is, though, because of his off-the-field transgressions that he's had, that just fuels the fire. We have to ask these questions if it's legit because of the past. But in my opinion, it's 99% false. I don't think there's a chance it's true. But again, because of the off-the-field stuff in the past, we have to ask these questions and talk about it.
It is true. I mean, there's a pending student code of conduct hearing. It's the crab legs. It's the BB gun incident. It's the shouting and obscenities on campus that wound up getting him suspended for a game. Eric, let's just say in theory there is some meat on the bone of this story. As a former quarterback, how in the world would you actually pull this off?
Look, I'm kind of shaking my head. I'm wondering how you pull it off. I mean, I know the competitor that I was playing football. I know the competitor that Jameis Winston is. I think it would be extremely hard to be focused on that. You know, a friend in high school trying to get him some money somehow. But, you know, you've got the game is bigger. There's so much out there that you need to focus on. I would find it difficult for this to happen. I mean, I agree with Dave, what he's saying there. I just think that, it's something, though, that when it comes up and it's Jameis Winston and you look at the past and what's happened and, you kind of go, geez, I mean, could it be true? And you make us all wonder. And I from a player's perspective, I think it would be difficult to go ahead and do that. But again, I kind of torn. I mean, it's like, you look at the character of what Jameis Winston has brought to the table here over the last year. You can't rule it out completely until it's proven.
Well, here's the reality. We're getting closer and closer to determining who the Heisman finalists are. Eric, I know you had the chance to meet Winston at last year's ceremony when, of course, he won. As somebody who now votes, how much do you think character should be a part of the overall profile that we're considering as voters?
Well, I think as the young players that are winning it, the background with Johnny Manziel, now what we're seeing develop with Jameis Winston, I believe that voters are going to, and I think they already are, they're starting to say, well, I'm not voting for Jameis Winston again, no matter how good he is, because of what he's doing off the field. And what he's bringing to their team in the university and college football and the Heisman Trophy. So I think that voters are in a position now to start thinking more about, okay, who's the best player on the field and also who's the best player off the field when it comes to character and integrity.
And I actually talked to a former Heisman Trophy winner from the 1990s back in early October when Jameis got on the table and he had that issue. And I asked him about this, how much do you balance the talent with the off-the-field stuff? And he said talent does win out, but he also said in this culture we live in now with social media, the off-the-field stuff gets more balanced, it takes over a little bit. So, and he said in particular, he would have a problem voting for Winston unless he did something so miraculous to finish out the year. This was back in early October, so.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I was on the call to determine the Maxwell semifinalists, and there was a lot of passionate, varied discussion about whether Winston should be included in that group, because the character thing is obviously an issue. Well, we'll obviously have to see how this story plays itself out. Eric, thank you so much for your perspective. Dave, we have you on every week. Good to see you. Undefeated Knowles will be hosting Virginia at 6:30 Saturday night. Be sure to head back over to Campus Insiders on Saturday to check out our Blitz, all the greatest highlights of the weekend. And then on Monday for the Download, where we recap Week 11 and take an early look ahead at Week 12.